it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our speaker this morning, David Jeffers. So David was born one of 5 children in Raleigh, where he developed an early love of music as his parents played everything from Miles Davis to John Denver and everything in between in the house. By the early 90s, he had started a music production company. And in the 2000s, in the aughts, he helped to trailblaze the digital music age by co-founding an online record label. But then a tragic accident in 2011 rendered him a quadriplegic, and it was at that point that Jeffers started on a life-changing journey of acceptance, which is our theme this month. One that would ultimately lead him to an award-winning career as a sound designer and as the founder of his sound design company, Quadraphonic. So folks, here to speak to us on our global theme of acceptance, please welcome David Jeffers. Come on up, David.
Well, I thought I was gonna come in here and have to start the party, but you know, DJ Harvey already got it going, and all the people started getting it going. So let's hype it up even more. I want everybody to get up, and I want you to dance. Really enjoy yourself. Yep. If you can't get up, just sit in your chair, move a little bit. Come on now, move around. Let's loosen it up. I think we need to turn the music up a little bit more. What do y'all think? All right, everybody stop. Right now, I want you to sit down and be quiet. Don't move, all right? Yeah, now that I interrupted your fun, let me ask you guys a question. Has there ever been a moment where everything was going great, you thought, I'm really on the come up, and something bad happens that seems to just shut everything down? Like maybe you lost a loved one, maybe you lost funding for that project you were working on, or you actually didn't get that dream job that you thought you were gonna get. Do you remember what that feels like? Everybody raise your hand if you've been in that position. That moment for me was August 1st, 2011. At that time, life was good. Me and my wife had our grown-up jobs. We bought a second home, and we had started our family. We were headed out to our first real adult vacation at Curry Beach. We rented a big beach house so our friends and family could come join us. I mean, it was a real milestone moment for us. So that Monday, excuse me, let me go back. This is my first time doing my first big speech, so y'all bear with me, all right? Yeah, so that was like a perfect time to squeeze in a vacation before the baby was born. That Monday was the first official day of vacation, so we got up, we hit the beach, we did some sightseeing. Later on that evening, we went to dinner with my wife's nephew, her grandparents, and her mom. The place was famous for their pork chops. I didn't like pork chops, but I said, you know, I'll give it a shot. So after dinner, my son Jackson, he's like, hey Dad, can we go back out to the beach? And I'm like, we're on vacation, sure, let's go. So it was probably around 7 o'clock, I guess, when we got to the beach. The tide was coming in. I was probably one of the few people actually in the water. And the water was about waist deep where I was standing at. And I see a wave coming in. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna dive through it. You know how you dive through a wave so you don't actually get knocked over? You know, I've done it a million times. But today, when I did it, something was different. I guess the force of the wave or whatever tipped me down, and I went head first into a sandbar. Instantly, I knew something was seriously wrong. I couldn't move or anything, and I was just sitting there in the water praying, like, please don't let me drown. It just seems like a horrible way to go. I called out for my nephew, who thought I was joking at first, but he quickly realized it was serious. So he comes out and he pulls me out of the water the best he can. I'm just laying there, and my wife comes up, and I'm just telling her like, hey, I've really messed up. You know, I've probably ruined the life that we had planned for us. You know, just apologizing to her, because I just knew like this was like a life-changing thing. And you know, she tries to console me or whatever. And like I said, I just knew in my heart it was serious. Things were really changing. At this moment, I realized that I don't want to have pork chops ever again. This is like the worst night ever. So I just want to tell you about myself before the accident. You know, I was used to building stuff. I was doing renovations on the house. I was a mechanical engineer, and I love making music. As far as being a parent, I was active, I was independent, and you know, me and my son Jackson, we did everything together. Yeah, we had dreams of being everything. In general, I was just, you know, like happy, free-spirited, independent type of person. And I definitely didn't have issues doing life's basic essentials like going to the bathroom by myself, getting dressed by myself, feeding myself. Back to the accident. That next morning, I woke up in the hospital. I had a full halo on, and essentially I had no movement at all. It turns out I had fractured my C4 and shattered my C5 vertebrae. What this meant is I had no feeling or movement basically below my chest level, and I had no bowel or bladder control. And basically, you know, very impaired movement of my arms and hands. Let me kind of show you what that means. As you can see, I have bicep muscles so I can move my arms up and down. I don't really have tricep muscles, but over time I've adapted where I can use my shoulder and rotate my arm to at least reach out. It's not really a lot of power in that, but at least I can reach out. Also, you know, no finger movement at all. I can like flex my wrist up and down, which will bring my fingers in to do like a little grip, which is helpful, but it's not very strong. And like I said, no bowel or bladder function since then. By a show of hands, actually, better yet, if you have kids or just loved ones in general, right now imagine yourself giving them a big hug, and I want you to say out loud, I love you.
I love you.
Now imagine waking up tomorrow and you couldn't hug that child, that loved one, that significant other. Or what if you woke up tomorrow and you were in so much pain and exhaustion, you really couldn't be the person you've always been. Overnight, I lost the means to function as the person that I had been for 30 some years. My pregnant wife would now become my caregiver, and our relationship dynamic would change forever. Talk about disbelief. Talk about loss. This was the ultimate for me. I spent about 2 weeks in the ICU. I was in 3 different hospitals in 3 different cities. I finally ended up in the Shepherd Center in Atlanta. Basically, they told me when I got to the Shepherd Center that if I would have gone home like 27 days after my injury, like the rehab center in Charlotte wanted me to do, I probably would not have survived. After 4 months of being in the hospital, I get cleared to go home just in time for Christmas. I thought going home was going to be better. I thought it was going to be great, but I was totally wrong. Shepherd Center was like this great, safe place. It was like an incubator for when you get hurt. It was a place of hope. But once you get home and you're in your normal environment, you start to like take it in and realize just how different your life is going to be. It was definitely a dark time because you have to start really understanding what your limitations are, and then you're trying to figure out how am I going to work within these limitations to live life, and it just seemed totally impossible. Not only do you have to face your own limitations, you have to face the limitations of your friends and your family, you know, the people you thought were going to be there for you. One of my saddest moments thinking back was one day my son Jackson, he was 4 at the time, he comes up, he's like, "Hey Dad, let's go to Lowe's, because I'm sure you'll get out of that wheelchair then." Yeah, I had been doing renovations on the house, and I was going to Lowe's like once, 2, 3 times a week. So, and it's like in that moment, it's like you realize how little he could comprehend like what was really happening, and it just clicked like how different my life was really gonna be. Don't get me wrong, this was a totally rough time, but like I always have, you know, I was still going hard. I was doing a ton of rehab and just doing as much as I could with my family at the time. I wasn't, you know, just sitting around sulking. Well, I was sitting, I didn't really have a choice. But yeah, I wasn't sulking. I was trying to be as positive as I could be. The process of understanding my limitations and just getting a routine down to live just day-to-day life, just really just getting through the day, took a ton of physical therapy, and it actually took several years. We finally got to a place where the routine was decent, and I could start exploring the idea of, you know, kind of getting back to myself and being more creative. At this point, the concept of acceptance was still pretty foreign, and honestly, I hated the idea of it. People would come talk to me about acceptance is this, that, and the other, and to me, it just sounded like failure. It sounded like I was quitting. The big catalyst for change for me was when I got my driver's license back and I started to drive. It made me realize, like, not only was it possible, but I also wanted and needed, you know, more out of life. That's when the door to acceptance really started to open for me. Okay. Up to this point, acceptance was really about just surviving. The following quote by Michael J. Fox really sums this up. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means knowing it is what it is and that there's got to be a way through it. This next quote is actually an excerpt from the Serenity Prayer. It's something that my dad used to say all the time when I was growing up. And I really didn't understand what it meant until now. That is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Like I said, I heard it tons of times growing up. But now I really get it. It really resonates. You know what I mean? Things start to look up for me and my family. We had a pretty solid routine. We were doing a lot more stuff. By accepting things in my situation, I was able to make more space and give me the capacity to start looking at my artwork and looking into my music again. I'd have to say, considering everything, things were really looking good. Things were looking great again. And yeah, I guess about seven years into my recovery, boom, another big personal tragedy or trauma occurred and brought me down again. This was really, like, I would say my rock bottom. But hitting rock bottom is what made me realize if I don't do something different, if I don't figure this out, I'm just not going to be able to go on. This word cloud, or I like to call it a word cluster, that's how it was in my life at this time, really represents my journey to understanding what acceptance really was. With help from my therapist, my wife, who is also a therapist, and some ketamine treatments and this great book called The Four Agreements, I finally realized what it meant to let go and practice acceptance. In all honesty, it probably took another 3 to 4 years to finally get to this point. And this point, I was able to see acceptance more about not just surviving, but thriving. And this quote on the screen right here, I think really catches that. When you let go, you create space to let better things into your life. I think hitting my lowest point is how I realized how much I really wanted to live and have a full life. That's when I really did my deep dive into acceptance. There I go diving again. What am I thinking? Yeah. It finally clicked. The only way I could live a full life is I had to clear my mind of all this junk, of all this stuff that I had no control over. My mind had been filled to capacity with old traumas and just racking my brain about things that I could not change. And it just really left no room for creativity or expansion. Once I was able to clear my head of all that stuff and stop needlessly stressing about it, because I couldn't change it anyway, I was able really to think again for the first time. Let's see if I can get a little water real quick. Speaking creatively, my art really started taking off. I started doing some art shows. My music production started leveling up, moving up, at least in my opinion. And around this time, I got introduced to the idea of doing sound design. My lifelong friend and his business partner, who own an inclusive motion design company called BN, came to me and said, hey, with your music talents and all your other skills, we really think that you could do sound design. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So by accepting their help and support, within a really short time, I actually became a pretty good sound designer. And I was able to actually launch a company called Quadraphonic. At this point, really things they seemed to start flowing. Like, I didn't even feel like I could keep up. Right? So, yeah, this is what acceptance looks like, I guess. Me looking crazy holding a sign. But seriously, I was able to actually win Sound Design of the Year in the year 2021. And I wholeheartedly believe that practicing acceptance got me to this point. With my renewed state of mind, I was able to just dig in there, take the support, not hold back, and I went from a novice sound designer to a pro level working with some pretty big clients. At this point, I want to show you some of my work. So this first piece is actually for the Paralympics wheelchair basketball, which was a great opportunity because I got to support other people with spinal cord injuries like me. And this is actually the video that I won the Sound Design Award for. Now, what's interesting about this piece is I actually did the whole thing on my iPad. Wow. And that's like even another form of acceptance. I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't have a decent computer. I don't have anything. But I accepted the tools that I had, and I made it work.
Yes.
Now, this next video, this is actually my brand story. It was done by BN, and I did the sound design, and I also produced the music for this. And this will give you a better idea about what I do.
I came up with pop funk sound because I'm a kid from the 90s and I used to produce using analog equipment. And so brainstorming and researching, I came across a theory of quadraphonic recording, which is spelled with an A instead of an I. And it was about recording on a 4-speaker setup instead of like Dolby 5.1. And I just thought that was cool technology from back in the 70s. And it just kind of stuck with me, so we ended up spelling it quadraphonic with an I to come up with quadraphonic sound. Obviously, because I'm a quadriplegic. Before I got injured, I was an engineer, and I lived in Detroit, where Jay Dilla is from, and he was really big back in the 2000s. And there's always somebody that I look to as a producer, where he did his drums and sing his samples, that if you notice the dots for the eyes are kind of off center of the letter itself, and that just kind of shows, Jake Dilla's technique of quantizing, or some would say not quantizing his drum beats, so they're kind of just off kilter to give it that nice, lively, unique sound. I like to use his theory in my sound design, where I sync my sounds based on the feeling of what's on the screen and what the story is about, versus really just trying to hit a mark dead on.
Yep. Through acceptance, I've been able to maintain a happy marriage and have a full life with my children. And I picked this song because everybody in my family has been such a great support. They keep me moving, keep me laughing, and are just there for me. Being able to work through my limitations through acceptance, it makes me be able to go and do the things with my children that I want. I might not be able to do all the things that I want, and I might not be able to do the way I want, but we still get to do it, and we still get to spend that time together. Truth be told, I also say learning acceptance actually probably saved my marriage. It made me realize how you can really be grateful for what's good in a situation, and just blossom that part, even though there may be loss. And basically that just allows us to keep our family going and to build our legacy. So I want to say do remember, and that goes out to my old hip hop heads that know about DJ Clue. For everybody else, I'll just say, let me leave you with these 3 things. Acceptance is letting go of the things you don't need to carry anyway. Gratitude is a major key, like DJ Khaled would say. Being grateful for the good thing is what's going to give you that fuel to get through your journey. Next, I would have to say celebrate often. Yes. You only live once, so you got to celebrate not only the big victories, but the small victories. It's a great expression of gratitude, not to mention, it's fun. Now ask yourself, is there anything you need to let go of that you need to accept? Oh. Yeah. I'm gonna let you see it. What's so crazy is that what took me 40 some years, several tragic events or traumas, it seemed like my son had figured out at 4 years old. So here's one of his random self-recorded videos that end up on the phone. Let me go back.
What are you thinking? Oh, you don't understand. It's like you're getting mad. Listen again, calm down, like, and like, let's get the beautiful light. And it's like, let's get it. Like, oh, I forgot everything. Just get the beautiful light. And take some walks and like blah blah blah. Like okay, fun. And go to the store, it's nice. Bye bye.
That's my guy. Before I let y'all go, I'm going to ask that you guys follow me on my socials, but I also want you to follow BN because I really believe in what they do, and I'm just so grateful for all the support they've given me. Without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And also, they are working on a short documentary about me, so follow them to kind of see what's coming up next. And last but not least, I want you guys to give my wife Yasmin over here a round of applause. Because without her support and her standing by me, I would not be here today. So I just want to say I love you, Yaz, and appreciate everything. And thank y'all for everything and being here today.